Edward strikes out. All the engines of Sodor are very happy to work on Sir Topham Hatt's railway. Edward has worked on the railway the longest. He knows everyone, and everyone knows him. One summer morning, Edward arrived at the docks. He had to pick up some heavy pipes. Gordon and Thomas were already there. Thomas was very excited. A new crane had just arrived on the island. "He looks so strong," puffed Thomas. "I'm sure he could even lift you up, Gordon," he chuckled. Gordon didn't think this was funny, and Thomas chuffed away. "That crane might be big," Gordon sniffed, "but he has no engine. He can't move unless another engine pulls him." Edward looked at the crane. Gordon was right. "Then I don't think he can be really useful," chuffed Edward slowly. "Quite right, Edward," huffed Gordon. "He will only get in the way." Just then, Percy arrived. He was very excited to see the new crane, too. "He's not very useful," boomed Gordon. "He will only get in the way," echoed Edward. "New-fangled nonsense," wheezed Gordon, and he chuffed off. "What's a new-funneled nuisance, Edward?" peeped Percy. "New-fangled nonsense, Percy," puffed Edward, as grandly as he could. "It's something that is new and not really useful." Edward's freight cars were right next to the new crane. "My name's Rocky," the crane smiled at Edward. "I'm Edward," puffed Edward. "Can I come with you?" asked Rocky. "I could help you with those heavy pipes." "I don't need your help," sniffed Edward. "Newfangled nonsense."
I'm sorry, what? Hey there, y'all skis. So, I'm really sorry for not uploading in a long time, and I promised a Thomas-related video. It was originally a reaction video, but then some stuff happened, and I was like, you know what, I'm not happy with this, so, I've been trying to make 12 different videos trying to discuss something Thomas-related, and you know what? I finally decided, hey, why don't I do an unscripted rant video of Edward Strikes Out? So, that's what I'm doing. It's just, like, my least favorite episode so far. I mean, I've only started watching to, like, PA Problems in Season 21. But, like, bro, why? He was just taken so out of character that it was sickening. So, if you aren't familiar with the Thomas character, Edward, basically, he's just supposed to be a kind old man. That's, like, his main personality. So, like, when you kind of make it the opposite, you can understand how it's a little bit frustrating. You know what I mean? So, here's the episode. So there's, like, a new crane on Sodor, whose name is Rocky. Like, Gordon, he's talking about him, he's like, well, he needs an engine to push him or whatever. And then Edward's like, well, I can't see how he can be really useful then. Like, excuse me? Is this not the same Edward that seems to think every single engine is useful, whether or not they, you know, can move on their own or if they go on rail? Like, come on. What? And then, you know, we got Percy asking what a newfangled nonsense is, and then Edward's like, something new and not useful. Like, okay, but how do you guys know he's not useful? You haven't even met him yet. Like, come on, y'all are being so mean. You weren't like that when Thomas, well, you weren't exactly like that when Thomas first came to Sodor, but still. Like, come on. So then Edward's gotta, like, you know, go get these flatbeds right next to Rocky or whatever, and then Rocky's like, hey, can I help you with those? I can help you lift those heavy pipes. And he's like, I don't need your help, newfangled nonsense. Like, excuse me? That is extremely rude coming from Edward. Like, I'd expect that from James or something, but not Edward. Like, I get it, nobody's perfect, everyone's having like, has had a bad day before, or is in a bad mood, but, like, up until this point, there is nothing to support any reason why Edward would be a jerk to Rocky. Rocky has been extremely friendly, and there's no evidence to support any reason why Edward is in a bad mood or for some reason has something against Rocky. It seemed like he didn't even really like Harvey to begin with, so I guess he just doesn't like cranes. So then, like, Edward literally gets in an accident because he's, like, thinking about Rocky. What? Why? Huh? Does Edward really seem like the type that would dwell on something so stupid like that, especially something that was caused by him? So then, Harvey comes over to, like, lift up the pipes, and he's like, it's gonna take a long time, and then I think it was, like, Thomas who came over, and he's like, hey, you need to get Rocky to do this, and he's like, no, Harvey's doing a fine job. But, like, the fact that Thomas, of all characters, had to suggest that. Ironically, it seems like Edward would be the one to suggest that, but whatever. Then Gordon gets in an accident, and Harvey's like, well, I can't lift Gordon, so we're all cooked. And I was like, yeah, I should probably go get Rocky. So then he goes to get Rocky, and Rocky's still being nice to him. At this point, I would have lost my mind. I would have been like, bro, I don't want to be pulled by you. You've been a jerk. So then, yeah, everything was fixed, and then Edward apologized and whatever. But, like, he was just so insanely out of character that it is sickening. Like, come on, y'all. Edward is supposed to be the kind one of the main cast. Sure, the majority of the other characters are nice sometimes, but Edward kind of stands out among them because he is nice basically all the time. So I think what happened here was, like, they were trying to give Edward flaws because he's not a very flawed character and therefore he can seem, kind of boring to write for. But, like, yeah, I agree with characters having flaws. But in Edward's case, you gotta be very, very, very careful about it. I'm not saying I do, like, a great job writing flaws for Edward or anything, because, hey, I'm no talented writer or anything, but I wouldn't make him a full-on jerk for no reason. Because once again, there is no reason that he should be acting like this. Literally no reason. Rocky existed, Gordon and Edward shamed his existence, and so, logic? Like, it doesn't make any remote sense at all. It's just sickening and basically makes Edward look like a monster, being so rude and critical. I've seen a few rewrites that were actually pretty good. By a few, I mean one. Basically, it was a story more about Harvey and Edward, and, like, that was a much better story. And they fixed that interaction with Edward and Rocky when he's just like, I don't need your help, newfangled nonsense. He just says, no thanks, I can handle it by myself, or something like that. Like, at least he was being nice about it instead of being directly a jerk to Rocky's face. Like, come on, man, you need to chill. Long story short, Edward Strikes Out is definitely my least favorite episode so far and needs to be removed from existence. I'm sorry. It's just bad. It's just full on bad. It's just bad. Alright, see you next time, y'all skis.